A new kitchen is potentially one of the biggest purchases most people will make, but there are some smart ways to bring that cost down without compromising on the result. I've been designing kitchens for a long time now, and in this video, I want to share some real ways to actually save money on a new kitchen. Minimize moving any plumbing or electrics. Moving a sink sounds like a minor thing, but even a relatively straightforward relocation can cost more than you think once you factor in new pipe work, the drainage, and any knock-on effects it might have. And if the floor needs opening up or digging up for any reason, such as the sink heading to an island, that's when costs can really start to add up. The same goes for your hob or cooktop. Moving a hob from one wall to an island or vice versa means new gas or electrical work, new ducting runs, possibly through floors or ceilings. It's also going to be a lot cheaper to try to design around your boiler or fuse box if they're in the kitchen, rather than having them moved. While we're on the subject of layout decisions that quietly inflate a budget, think hard before any structural work too. Extensions can be brilliant, but the moment you bring in architects, structural engineers, planning applications, and steelwork, the cost goes up fast. Ask yourself honestly, do you actually need more space, or do you need the space you already have to work better? The overall principle here is simple. The less you disturb what's already there, the more money stays in your pocket. Understand where cabinet cost actually lives. Cabinet costs are typically the biggest single material cost in a kitchen. The carcass is the box, the structure, and the quality of that structure matters enormously for how long your kitchen lasts and how well it all goes together. But it doesn't need to cost a fortune. If we're trying to save a bit of money, a good solid mid-range carcass of 18mm thick construction using a good HDF or Egger board, decent hinges and soft close runners will do everything a premium carcass does at a fraction of the price of the solid wood version. Then you put your door on. A well-chosen door and a good finish does most of the visual work. And a simple slab or shaker-style door in a considered colour can look every bit as good as something with expensive profiling. The door design doesn't have to be complicated to look expensive. And watch the add-ons: crown moulding, light rails, decorative end panels. All nice, but all adding cost. Decide up front which ones you actually care about and which ones you're happy to leave out. Source your worktop yourself. Whatever material you're going with, there's a good chance you'll save money by sourcing it yourself rather than through the showroom. For laminate and solid wood, there are plenty of good online retailers, and the price difference can be quite something. The showroom is often selling you the exact same product with their margin on top. Buy direct, and you cut that out. Laminate and wood worktops come in standard sizes, so measure your runs carefully, allow a bit extra for cuts, and order accordingly. If you're borderline on length, go the next size up. Wooden offcuts make great chopping boards, by the way. For stone worktops like granite, quartz, or anything like that, go direct to a local stone fabricator. There's probably more of these around in your area than you realize. Get 2 or 3 quotes, and you'll almost certainly pay less than through the showroom. Often, it's the same company the showroom uses anyway. You're just cutting out the middleman. And just be aware that every cut or feature in a stone worktop adds fabrication cost. Socket cutouts, drainer grooves, a mitered corner, a waterfall edge, each one adds money. So if you're trying to keep the price down, within reason and where you can, keep it simple. Shop around, negotiate, and time it right. This one sounds obvious, but most people visit 1 or 2 showrooms, get a quote, and go with whoever they like best. And that could be leaving some money on the table. Visit a few more places, get a few more quotes, and don't be afraid to negotiate. You'd be surprised how far a price can move just by asking or by mentioning you've been quoted less elsewhere. And here's a little tip: try to make your purchase towards the end of the month. A lot of showrooms have monthly sales targets, and if they're a bit short, they'll often do a better deal to get something on the board. Certainly not every kitchen showroom, but it's definitely worth a go. And timing more broadly is worth thinking about as well. Kitchen retailers and appliance brands run predictable sales cycles. Typically January, the big sales month. Companies want some projects in their pipeline for the year ahead, and then usually around August, they want to start catching those people that want a new kitchen done in time for Christmas and have spent the summer thinking about it. Now, these aren't definite months, and it will depend on what hemisphere in the world you live, but my point is there are usually pretty predictable sales months to take advantage of. One other thing to watch out for: big flashy discounts. 50% off this month only. In most cases, the price has been inflated so they can give you that discount. The final number is what matters, not the percentage off. So try not to get influenced by the big discount number. Oftentimes, it's just not real. Buy your appliances online and be smart about brands. This is one of the most straightforward ways to save, and yet so many people still buy their appliances through the kitchen showroom. Unless you're after something quite specialist, almost every major appliance brand is available online, and sadly, it's nearly always cheaper. You'll often have more choice too, as some showrooms only stock the brands they have on display. Another thing to watch out for are appliance promotions bundled with the kitchen. A free dishwasher with every kitchen order, or get a free wine cooler worth £400 when you spend over X amount. What's almost certainly happened is the price has been bumped up somewhere else to cover it. My advice: strip the appliances out of the quote entirely. Negotiate hard on the cabinets, then go and buy the appliances yourself online. And also consider the brand or the spec of the appliances. For the appliances you rely on every day and that people can actually see, usually your oven and hob, it's worth spending a bit more and going with a brand people recognize. It adds something to the feel of the kitchen, as these are appliances you're going to be using a lot. It tends to hold up well for resale, and honestly, people notice. But for appliances hidden behind cabinet doors, like the integrated fridge freezer or the built-in cooker hood, you can often get away with slightly less expensive brands. Often a very similar spec with very similar features and looking approximately the same, just without the badge or the name attached to it. And often a fair bit cheaper because of it. Nobody's going to open your cooker hood cabinet and check the brand name. It's also worth thinking about X-display and graded appliances. These are appliances with cosmetic marks or minor damage, often from the showroom floor. You can often pick them up with a significant discount and usually with a full manufacturer warranty still. And if the appliance is going to be integrated anyway, any cosmetic marks on the side are going to be behind the cabinet door. And give yourself plenty of lead time on all of this. You don't want to be a week out from installation and find the one you want is out of stock. Source your accessories yourself. Kitchen showrooms make good money on accessories: pop-up sockets, pull-out spice racks, cutlery trays, peg boards for pan drawers, all useful stuff, but almost all of it is available online, often for a fraction of what the showroom charges. If you have a local fitter rather than the showroom's own team, you can take this a step further. Storage mechanisms like corner pull-out solutions, pull-out wire work, integrated bins, under cabinet lighting can all be sourced online and fitted separately. One thing to be careful about: if you're planning to add pull-out mechanisms to base units, make sure you specify the right cabinet construction up front. You might not want the doors attached and hinged directly to the carcass if they're going to be fitted to a mechanism like a magic corner or a pull-out bin. Get that wrong and you'll have extra holes to fill and a bit of a headache. So sort through these at the planning stage and not after. Speaking of, finalize everything before work starts. This one doesn't feel like a savings tip, but mid-project changes are one of the most common reasons kitchen budgets collapse. And the knock-on consequences aren't always obvious. Take your sink. Your worktop gets templated after the cabinets are all installed. If you decide to change your sink after that point, say swapping that undermount for a Belfast sink, It could mean a new cabinet, another template visit, a new cutout in your worktop, and your fitter coming back for another day. Something that felt like a quick swap ends up costing a lot more than it should. Appliances are another one to think carefully about. Say you've ordered an integrated fridge and then you spot a different one that you prefer. If that new fridge uses a different hinge type, a sliding hinge instead of a fixed one, or it has a slightly different split height, it may require a completely different cabinet door configuration, which means the cabinet you've already ordered might no longer work. New order, new lead time, possible restock fee, and your whole program potentially pushed back. The guidance that I'd aim for: by the time the first unit goes in, every door color, handle, worktop material, sink, tap, and appliance should already be decided, ordered, and preferably on-site ready. I know that sounds demanding, and I get that decisions are hard when you're looking at all of these samples, but the cost of changing your mind mid-project is much higher than taking an extra week at the planning stage. Look at X-display kitchens and outlet cabinets. Some showrooms change their displays quite regularly. New collections come in, old ones have to go. Most showrooms advertise these for sale, but here's a tip: if there's a display you like, don't wait for it to come up. Ask the manager directly whether they're planning to change it. You might be exactly the buyer they need lined up to make that decision easier for them. Just check carefully first that you can make the display work for your layout. Can you use most of the unit? Can you top it up with any extra ones that you might need? If the answer is yes, you could get a good quality kitchen for a fraction of what it would normally cost. There's also outlets for some kitchen companies. This is where they might have kitchen cabinets that were painted the wrong color or were made a size that didn't quite fit. Some might have a tiny bit of cosmetic damage on them, but they're all perfectly usable. I've had clients in the past slowly collect these outlet cabinets and piece together an almost full kitchen out of them, only needing to then buy the odd one or two new ones to complete the layout. If you've got time and somewhere to store them, it could be a great option. Reuse what you can and sell what you can't. Before you rip everything out, have a proper look at what's actually worth keeping. Maybe you've got a recently replaced hob or oven that's still in pretty good shape. Well, most appliances are standard sizes, so even if you do want to swap it out later, it's relatively easy. A decent length of timber worktop being removed? Think about whether it could work somewhere else in the new layout, or maybe in your utility room. If you're very lucky and your old kitchen carcasses are still solid and level, and if the layout isn't changing, the bones are still good, replacing just the doors and worktop is a legitimate, meaningful saving. This does only make sense if the carcasses are actually sound, mind you. Swollen chipboard that's poorly aligned isn't worth keeping just to save money. And your entire old kitchen itself may have value too. There are companies that buy second-hand kitchens, even just selling appliances or bits and pieces separately on Facebook Marketplace or Gumtree, if that's still a thing, can put a decent amount back in your pocket. Use a local fitter, but don't skip on quality. Kitchen installation is often where a big chunk of the budget quietly disappears, and a good local fitter will typically cost less than the in-house fitting team from the showroom. Ask around for recommendations. Word of mouth is still the best way to find somebody good. Try and see their work if you can, and then get a quote. And get a couple quotes if you have the time. Just make sure the quotes are for the same scope. A cheap quote with an open-ended day rate for extras can end up costing more than a higher fixed price. The honest caveat: some savings aren't worth it. I want to take a quick moment here because this is a video about saving money, and I think it's important to be honest about where these savings can backfire. Yes, a local fitter will most likely be cheaper than the in-house team. However, there is a big caveat here. If something gets damaged during the fit, which does happen occasionally, you'll be sorting that out with your fitter directly, which may cause some tension. With the showroom's own team, it's their problem, and they tend to deal with it quite quickly. Sourcing your own worktop saves money, yes, most likely. But if finding the right fabricator takes you 15 hours of phone calls, think about whether that's a good use of your time. Some savings also transfer more risk onto you. If you buy your own appliances and one turns out to be faulty, you're dealing with the warranty claim all by yourself. So worth knowing before you go all in on self-sourcing everything. My advice, pick 2, 3, or 4 of these tips that fit your situation and your available time. Don't try to do all of them. The goal isn't to squeeze every possible pound out of the project, it's to make smart decisions so you end up with a kitchen you love for a price that makes sense. So are you in the planning stage right now, or have you been through a renovation recently, and is there anything else you'd add to this list? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this one, I think you'll like this one too, where I go through my top kitchen design tips. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.